All right. It's loading up into Restream. Looks like YouTube's turning on too. Up into Restream. Looks like YouTube's turning. Oh, there we are. Can you hear that? Great. I think we're back, everyone. Chris, can you speak real quick?
Yep, I'm here.
Great. Cool. All right. I'm going to bring you down.
Yeah, how are our sound levels? Are we too loud?
You're going a little loud. I'm bringing you down a little bit. We're going to see how that goes.
All right.
Sorry, guys, if you're live listening. We're just getting some things fixed up. Second episode. Haha. Roblox. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to try this one more time. Welcome to the Super Theory Podcast. I am one of the hosts, Brandon Martin, and with me is the other host, Chris Green.
Hello, guys. Thanks for joining us.
This is take 2. Sorry if you were listening like 2 seconds ago. We had to change some stuff. Luckily, I have a great producer named Reed who worked it out, and I think we're good to go right now. So yeah, today's episode is episode 2, Spider-Man Into the Sonyverse, and we're going to talk about all of the things about Sony's Spider-Man universe of extended characters. And I don't know if that's the exact name, but it is very close. It is real clunky and stuff as far as their official title, and I will look that up.
Yeah, right whatever we end up calling it is going to end up sounding better than whatever their official term is.
We could add more words and it would still sound better than what they have.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're going to talk about what we think is going to happen now that apparently there are some connections being made with some side characters like Morbius and Venom coming up. And yeah, so first off, if you don't know what's happened, basically in the world of Spider-Man, if you're like completely blank and have no clue, a rundown is that Spider-Man is still owned, at least the rights are still owned by Sony. Sony and Marvel worked out a deal to where some economic deal where it would benefit both in whatever way, and they would have Spider-Man, Tom Holland, in Marvel Universe movies, but also allow him to make his solo movies over at Sony instead of Disney. And Sony.
And what was it, like an original 5-picture deal or something that started with Civil War?
I believe so. I don't know if I didn't read into the contract, and I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know that much shit. But I believe the original contract was something like 5 movies, where he did Infinity War, Civil War, and then he got his solo deal. It may have even been 3 movies at first, and then once the first ones were good, they extended it.
Okay.
But either way, after Endgame, which is the last movie in the Marvel universe in what was it, Phase 3? Is that the end? Yeah. It ended the Infinity Saga, we'll say that. And that was the last 10 years of movies.
Yeah, I think, Spider-Man officially closed that chapter.
Yeah. And so they didn't have anything in place, or whatever they did have in place wasn't working. And Spider-Man was no longer going to be a part of the Marvel Universe, even though he basically took like the throne that Iron Man left behind. He was the future of it. And for whatever reason, they decided to have a little temper tantrum behind the scenes, or whatever was the case, and there was about a 5 to 7 day period where Tom Holland was not expected back in the Marvel Universe.
Well, so if we back up a little bit, I think I can explain how the confusion happened.
Okay.
Because when the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies came out, for that time, other than, I guess, the X-Men movies, the original set came out, those were kind of really the standard and the new bearers of really good comic book movies. I think a lot of people have Tobey Maguire as still their favorite Spider-Man, even after Tom Holland's been seen. A lot of people like Tom Holland though, but I think Tobey Maguire set the standard, and I think Sony took that as this is our prized possession,
Mm-hmm.
and so they kind of were chest sticking out proud about that. When the Andrew Garfield two Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man movies came out, they were met with a little bit less reception, even though if you go back and watch them, they're really not that bad. Uh, but as compared to what we're now seeing pumped out by Marvel and to some degree DC, the standard kind of dropped and they lost some money on those movies. And so I think when Marvel came around and really started putting forth this built universe, everyone was clamoring to include Spider-Man in that because in the comics, Spider-Man obviously has a deep run within that joint universe. Uh, so I really think it was a case of they were proud of what Tobey Maguire brought, and then they kind of just got left behind.
Well, and I would like to kind of dovetail off that because there also was the behind the scenes scandal of Amy Pascal and this big Sony email hack.
Yes.
Uh, there's, I don't remember all the exact details, but it was kind of a big story. Sony got hacked, emails came out. Amy Pascal, who's like a head producer in that world over there, I guess had some emails that probably shouldn't have been let out that had some things that were said, at least about Spider-Man and others. I believe Seth Rogen may have been involved as far as it involved all of Sony. Let's just say that it wasn't just
Yeah.
Spider-Man. But that did kind of sour what was happening with Spider-Man during Andrew Garfield's run. And then
Yeah.
I think that also led for Marvel to come in and be like, hey, let us clean this up for you. You're not having the best look right now. And and to add on to what you said, I think that was just kind of a culmination of everything that led him into the idea of a younger, more I do kind of want to say more comic accurate.
Yeah.
You know,
For sure.
I don't think a high schooler as Spider-Man should be as tall as Andrew Garfield. That's definitely like basketball player height.
Right.
But needless, and he was great in it. I mean, I didn't have any problems with him, but they wanted to go for a bit more accurate, and uh, it made sense, especially now that we know how Endgame ended, and you have this bright young future for this kid who, you know, is just getting out of high school, and he can lead like the next 10 to 15 years of Marvel if he wanted to, because you know they got Tony Stark, what was it, over 10 years ago, and he was in his what late 30s.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're lucky
Yeah,
they got
maybe
a
40.
10-year run.
Yeah.
But now with Tom Holland in the seat, I think he's like in his early 20s. I mean, the whole world is in front of that guy's future.
Oh, he's set.
Yeah, forever, or at least for a very long time.
Now,
He's
where was your excitement as Spider-Man as a character? Because I, you know, I'll be honest, I'm a Batman fan before anything else, so I was real heavy into DC, and then kind of morphed over into Marvel as soon as some of the movies started coming out, etc.
mm-hmm.
But Spider-Man as a character, when everyone was really pumped that he joined the Marvel universe, I was also excited, but not to the degree that other people were.
Right, and I would probably say I agree with you. What I always liked Spider-Man. I had toys, you know. I loved the animated series. I watched that. I was that was at my age as far as like watching it in the mornings on Saturday and all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff, along with the X-Men cartoons and all that.
Yep,
And I liked the Tobey Maguire movies, and I was one of those people who's in the big general consensus. I think about at least before Tom Holland, their favorite Spider-Man was Spider-Man 2.
for sure.
That was like the best comic book movie, and it still holds a lot of weight. I forgot the actor's name, so I sound like a dick, but I loved who played Doctor Octopus. I love that guy
Oh
as an
yeah,
actor. What's it?
yeah. I don't remember either. He was also in Temple of Doom, I think.
Yeah,
Indiana Jones.
I'll look it up and I'm gonna say his name because I do love him. But you know that kind of set a real bar, I think, comic book wise,
Right.
and Alfred Molina, that's who it was.
Okay.
Great in that role. But yeah, but then after they didn't make I think what soured my taste in Spider-Man movies overall was Spider-Man 3, and the Sandman and the shitty version of Venom.
You mean you didn't like Tobey Maguire
Oh
coming
my
out of the clothing
god,
store and that dancing scene?
that one, I I don't even know what to say. Because like,
I watch a lot of YouTube cringe videos,
yeah,
and I cannot watch that.
yeah,
It's
that
so embarrassing.
that's probably the original cringe video as far
Oh
as like
yeah,
on a
it must
mass
be.
scale. Everyone was in the theater watching Spider-Man 3 going, ugh.
And you know what gets me is that they didn't cleanly get that shot within the moment that he danced. You know they probably shot that for 3 hours,
Oh my God. Could you
and then they
imagine
cut it
being,
to that. So
could you,
Tobey Maguire is just hip thrusting for 3 hours,
yeah.
and it is so bad. And every woman's reaction on the street is positive. I mean, they
It's,
kind of cringe at first, but then they're like, "Oh, what is this guy up to?"
I mean, I get,
And I'm like, "He's up to nothing."
yeah, exactly. At least not after this movie. He's definitely not
No,
up to anything. But yeah, that black suit and not going to a funeral didn't do him any justice.
no.
Ugh. Anyways, yeah, that was definitely this what soured my taste in Spider-Man. And I got a little bit more hopeful when I saw Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield. I thought it was all right. I do love the acting style and the chemistry between him and Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy. It did help that they were in a real relationship at the time too. But
Yeah.
there was just something in the way they kind of played it. And for background, I'm an actor. I'm an improviser. I've been doing it for a while. Uh, I get how that chemistry looks and feels between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone, and that was real
For sure.
promising. And then came the Amazing Spider-Man 2. They get the suit right. I don't think they got Jamie Foxx right, although Jamie Foxx is a G, and I love him. I've loved him since In Living Color, playing Wanda. Like, I
Oh
have
yeah,
all the faith in the
and one of the
world.
most talented people on earth, by the way.
Absolutely. Classic pianist or classically trained pianist. Like that dude's all
Yep.
over. He's a Renaissance man for reals. And but I don't really know if it was the script. I don't know. I guess it might be the script or I don't know enough about it. But that kind of just shows my interest in it. Like it just didn't. It didn't keep me wanting more. I wasn't like
Right.
overwhelmed with. And I should be very clear. I like Spider-Man, but like you, I'm a Batman all day, every day. Don't fuck with it.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I just didn't really know how I felt after all that. But then I kind of had a renewed sense of hope when Marvel took over because I was like, they did Captain America so well, especially the Winter Soldier. They have all this experience building and making and building these characters up in their world. They did great with Iron Man. I mean, they did great with pretty much everyone. And
Right.
so hearing that they're about to take on Spider-Man, I mean, yeah, I was pretty hyped on it. It just sounded like a great idea. And it was the perfect way to revitalize the Marvel universe at that time, knowing that the next movie that was coming out was Civil War, and it was just heroes versus heroes.
Well,
There
and I
was
do remember it was like a very late edition because I
right,
think there was a shot in the trailer where they kind of show everyone at the airport meeting up for the fight, and
yes,
Spider-Man is not part of that.
right.
And then he
Uh,
was added at the very end, so it really was like a last minute deal.
but man, what an addition, and
Yeah.
even just that small part of introducing him in that was pretty awesome.
Oh
He
yeah.
had the great line between him and Captain America about where you from. I'm from Queens. I'm from Brooklyn or whatever.
Yep.
Like the relationship and the hope for the future of that character was there.
Yep.
And then came the following films. Get to Endgame. It's over. What happens now? Uh, there was a 7-day, week-long. I don't know. Cry fest. As soon as people, all the, this is the, we talked about this in the first episode, the Snyder Cut. This is the first big thing fan wise that, I mean, changed a lot of stuff going
Yeah.
forward in the industry, and it was even exasperated in the best way by Tom Holland. I mean, this dude was drunk, crying on the phone with the CEO of Disney. Uh, he was able to get a hold of that guy on the phone, and he was crying about what was happening, and they fixed it within a week or so.
Yeah, it
And
was like a week later.
yeah,
No joke.
and it just goes to show, like, all right, the fans are behind Tom Holland. Tom Holland is behind this character, like, and not only the character, but the character being expanded upon and like being part of the Avengers. What are you gonna do? Make
Yeah,
them one and then take them away? That's stupid.
exactly.
But it was stupid enough to be seen in broad daylight, and it was fixed. Which brings us to now. And what does this mean now that there's a new shared contract and a new joint agreement between Sony and Marvel to continue making Spider-Man movies, as well as including him in, uh, Marvel movies within the main universe? Uh, it means a lot, but what means even more is these side characters that Sony are developing, and successfully, I might add, with Venom. Um, you know, Venom. I wasn't. I liked
Yeah, I
Venom.
think you liked Venom more than I liked Venom, but
Yeah,
Venom wasn't a bad movie.
it was miles ahead of Spider-Man 3,
Right.
and Venom looked like Venom, and you had a guy like Tom Hardy playing him,
Right.
which is, I mean, that's fucking crazy.
Yep.
I don't know if anyone listening or maybe listening later has seen the movie Bronson with Tom Hardy. It was on Netflix for a while, but he played a straight up psychopath.
Yep.
And dude, it's such a wild movie. I can't even I don't even know what to say. You just gotta watch it. Uh, but I mean, he becomes somebody else. And then you have him. I forgot what the movie's called, but he's in a movie where he plays a set of twins. So he's playing two different characters at the same time against
Oh,
himself.
that's right. Yeah.
Uh, and now he's playing a man who basically has an alien. I guess a parasite. I don't know. Would you call it a parasite?
Yeah, just describe it as a symbiote. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
parasite.
Yeah, but it lives within him.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, it's got to be a parasite that has a symbiotic relationship with the
yeah,
host.
yeah. But like it it wasn't. It didn't come out the way I thought it was. I thought it was gonna be like crazy R rated, tons of blood. I mean, Venom's
Right.
known for being a pretty brutal antagonist, and
Well, so now was Venom? So Venom obviously was done and shot prior to the new set of, well, Tom Holland is going to exist within this Venom world. We didn't actually know that,
there was nothing in
and
place
so
to set
right,
it in stone.
right. So I don't know if they had in mind, well, we need to keep the gore to a certain level in case we join the Marvel universe or not.
Right, right.
But it ended up working out for them.
Yeah, and it was successful enough that everyone liked it. And
Right.
God, seeing Michelle Williams in it, and Venom going into her, that pleased me enough that I got over the idea of like, where's all the gore and him tearing people apart? The
Right.
symbiote taking on the female form was pretty badass in the woods.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought that was awesome. But now those deals are in place. We have Morbius coming up, and I think once that deal was done, and again, if you're not familiar with Morbius, which I don't know why you wouldn't be now, Jared Leto plays Dr. Morbius, who has some sort of I think it might be a viral condition, some sort of thing that fucks up his body basically, and he finds this vampire bat blood that has these whatever things within the blood that can maybe heal him, and in turn turns him into Morbius, the living vampire, which is a classic Spider-Man character. But within the reports of all this, uh, there's now confirmed Spider-Man connections, with Spider-Man actually being on a wall and having murderer spray painted under his image, which could, I'm not saying it does because we haven't seen it yet, but it could most likely be potentially connected to the fact that everyone thinks Peter Parker, who is Spider-Man, killed Mysterio, which if you haven't seen Spider-Man Far From Home, that's basically what happens at the end. And then there's also the Vulture cameo that they've already shown in the trailer. So obviously it's like they are building towards Tom Holland. I mean, showing Michael Keaton that way, I mean,
it's in the same prison jumpsuit. There's no doubt now. I mean, prior to that trailer releasing, I think they had the still of the Spider-Man poster saying murderer, and a lot of people said, well, they actually pulled that from the Sony Spider-Man 4 game on PS4. But then with the cameo in the first trailer, I don't see how you can say it's any different. He's literally playing that character.
Exactly. And, so what does that mean for now? Is it does it?
Well, this just builds the world bigger for Marvel. It's similar to how Marvel already, started with some of the Disney Plus series that are going to start coming out with Winter Soldier and the Falcon, etc. Um, this
Yeah, and
allows them to build the Sony world within its own little enclosure while still allowing the main focal point, and then maybe bringing over a strong villain or two, like a Venom. Um, like really the Sinister Six. I know they're eventually going
yeah,
to get to that.
I was actually going
Over
to bring
into
that
a
up.
main movie.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up because at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2, the kind of in the I think it was the end credit scene. I don't think it was directly in the movie, or it may have been. I don't remember. I haven't watched it in a while. They show the 6 different suits at Oscorp, and uh, you
Yeah,
know,
what is that? That's at the end of the Amazing Spider-Man
yeah,
2.
the
Is that what you
Amazing
said?
Spider-Man
Yeah,
2.
yeah.
They show the 6 different suits for mechanical suits for whatever villains are supposed to come, and now that's not happening, obviously. But Sony was in. It was well known Sony had a Sinister Six movie coming for quite a long while. It didn't get made. That doesn't mean the idea is scrapped, and it doesn't mean they can't take ideas from that and merge it into a newer version that involves Tom Holland. But there's also the idea that Sony may at one point even bring in like a Spider Verse. Uh, there Doctor Strange 2 is going to go into the Marvel, or what is it, the Multiverse of Madness. So, and Sam Raimi is directing that. If you don't know who Sam Raimi is, he directed the first 3 Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire. So Marvel
Wouldn't that be a
knows,
perfect opportunity
yeah,
to match over?
yeah, and Marvel knows exactly what they're doing, even though we may not know exactly what they're doing.
But
But
see, isn't that the main difference with maybe the trust level we have with Marvel versus DC is while we know there's probably a plan for both, we
mm-hmm,
don't doubt that Marvel has things drawn out.
100%, I
Like
couldn't
we
agree with you
know
more.
their story is developed, and we're just guessing. There's a little bit of worrying on the other side.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's 100% accurate. Um, and I think there's a lot of promise with everything, even though we probably still don't know what's actually going to happen. Um,
Well, and what's wild, I think maybe I mentioned this to you a couple months ago, maybe, but there was a deleted scene in the old Wesley Snipes Blade One movie
oh yeah,
that I think came out in the late '90s,
yeah,
where
yeah,
they show Morbius on the rooftop,
yeah,
and Blade notices him. So clearly, Morbius has a history, obviously in the comics, but at least visually in a movie, we saw Morbius being referenced with Blade, and they've already announced that Mahershala Ali is going to play Blade probably in Phase 5 for
exactly.
Marvel. So, man, the tentacles that they potentially have. Sam Raimi maybe getting to have success with the multiverse of madness and Doctor Strange, and then really lead the way on how maybe he wants to bring Tobey Maguire in for more than a cameo.
Yeah,
Because wouldn't that be? I think that would break the internet.
I mean, for those of you who don't know, and if you don't know, I don't know why you don't know. But one of the best Spider-Man movies that's come out was the animated Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and expanding on this idea of like multiple Spider-Man and multiple universes, and an immediate hit. Uh,
Oh, it's really good.
really, really good.
It's
The
as good as
animation is
any other
crazy.
Spider-Man movie to me.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The animation is amazing. Uh, but if you don't think Marvel has that in mind for live action, especially after that kind of reception, you're crazy.
Right.
And so, what I'm wondering right now, at least with Morbius, number one, is it the bridge between Venom and Spider Man? Are we going to see Spider Man and Venom kind of come into the same world within Morbius, maybe through cameos or whatever, and meet there?
Well, was Morbius part of the Sinister Six?
Not, not that I know of, but that
But
doesn't
maybe
mean he
that's how
can't
Marvel
be.
does their tweaking,
Yeah,
and they put Venom in the Sinister Six. I think Carnage will just be a villain for everybody in the
yeah,
way that Enchantress was for the Suicide Squad.
yeah, I agree.
So bads fighting bads, but I think maybe that's what they do. They Morbius will be part of the because they built what 5 of the 6 characters so far.
Yeah, so again,
Sinister Six,
so they have Vulture,
right,
They have Scorpion, even though he's just in jail and we haven't seen any
right.
suits on him. There's Mysterio, who in my mind would probably become the head of the Sinister Six.
Yeah,
Uh,
the Tony Stark
yeah,
esque of the Sinister Six. Yeah.
yeah. I think he's right now, at least the villains that they've shown, the only one with the kind of brains to pull that off, and especially if they're gonna keep uh, Norman Osborn's kid. What is his name? I can't believe I can't think of it. That Peter's best friend or whatever. That
Oh yeah, Harry.
Harry Osborn.
Yeah.
Duh. Sorry. Yeah. So in my mind, Harry Osborn's probably going to be Peter Parker's age in the Marvel universe. So he's going to be a kid. So I don't think he's going to be the head of the Sinister Six, but I think Mysterio will. Uh,
Well, maybe his dad Norman kind of runs the behind the scenes, like
that's true too, because he's Green
General.
Goblin or whatever.
What's the general's name over in Marvel? Um, I'm drawing a
The
blank. The one that was
General.
in the Incredible Hulk, the one that did the Sokovia Accords.
Oh yeah. I forgot his
Yeah,
name, but I know who you're talking about.
yeah. Well, he'll put a team together after Black Widow. That's at least the rumor for Black Widow. But I think the rumor for Oscorp was going to be that Norman was going to basically put a team together in the same vein that General does.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, either way, I don't know if we're gonna see Harry involved in a villain role just yet. So there is room for different types of
Yeah,
people to be
General
in.
Ross, that's his name.
General Roth, that's right.
Thunderbolt Ross.
Man, what a name. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, you have Venom. You have, which I don't. Would he be in the Sinister Six if he's like an anti-hero and not a straight villain?
Yeah, as soon as I said that, I kind of questioned it. Yeah, I think you're right. But what? So obviously they're working in a symbiote sort of relationship where he's kind of like, look, we only have to take out the bad people, but we know that Venom and Spider-Man will clash at some point, so there will
Right.
be some conflict there. But I don't know if Venom is going to be just in a classic good scenario. He may just be a roamer in the way that Deadpool is a roamer.
Yeah, he might try to
But I mean,
be. I mean,
Deadpool is part of the X-Men at points, or at least the X-Force. So I don't know.
with Eddie Brock being a journalist, I feel like he would try to make Venom neutral in a giant situation like that, maybe. But I don't
Maybe
know.
so.
I don't really know.
What would be great is that he'd be a journalist for the same newspaper company, maybe that
Oh, if he
Peter
got
gets
a
a job
job,
for.
yeah, that would be
That'd be a
crazy.
nice connection.
Which brings us to kind of a tangent that just got announced today that J.K. Simmons is going to play J. Jonah Jameson for multiple movies, which kind of links back to Sam Raimi. He was J. Jonah Jameson in the first three Spider-Mans, and then the surprise cameo at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, he reprises the role as J. Jonah Jameson, but in this world where he's actually a podcast InfoWars type host and not the head of like a newspaper
Yeah, like
conglomerate or anything like
digital
that.
media kind of mono.
He's modernized basically. So,
Which at this point, if I don't know how you feel, but if Tobey Maguire does not make an appearance at some point, what are we doing?
No kidding.
What are we doing with ourselves? It's right there for us.
It's one thing if you're going to skip over Andrew Garfield, although I feel Tom Holland would probably feel the same way about having all three instead of just two, as much as he did about wanting to be in both Marvel and Sony. Like, I'm sure he would probably be like, what the hell are you doing? Like, get all three in. But yeah, I think you got Sam Raimi, you have Marvel, and you have Spider-Man, and you have the same J. Jonah Jameson. I feel if Tobey Maguire doesn't show up, it'll be one of Marvel's biggest missed opportunities.
Well, you also had, I think it was in the first Marvel, where Donald Glover played
Miles
Morales' uncle.
Yeah.
So you're setting it up to see all of them. If they're not working towards multiple Spider-Man, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
I think it's all about a sure thing.
I think the one thing they may take some liberty on is not making a spider pig in the live action version. That may be a little too far.
Yes, but if they can at least get the Spider Noir and have Nicolas Cage voice him,
oh my shit, have Nicolas Cage be him. Fuck it. You know what I mean? pull him out. I feel like that is a perfect thing to do, especially for Marvel.
He's already going to play the Tiger King. Let him also play Spider-Man.
What do you have under your belt? Well, I played Spider-Man and Joe Exotic.
Yeah,
What a resume.
yeah.
Say no more. You're hired. Um, yeah, I mean, there's just, I mean, that would make the most sense. You leave out the Spider Pig, but you bring in something as fun as Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man
Right.
Noir. You have, your Spider Gwen, your Gwen Stacy version, come from it. I
Yep.
mean, you can do a lot of things, and it's all there. And if it doesn't get played with, it's a huge missed opportunity. But
It's silly, yeah.
Kevin Feige's
And
not.
Marvel doesn't miss opportunities.
That's
Is there a
exactly.
moment that you can think where you're like, man, I wish they had done something? I mean, other than,
No,
I mean,
you.
we eventually see, I don't know, maybe Hulk. We wanted him to fight Thanos again, full strength or something, but I don't know. I
I
mean,
I think you took the
other than that,
words. I think you took the words right out of my mouth. I think you're absolutely right. I think Kevin Feige has not missed any opportunities, and if he did, they were small enough where people were like, you know what I mean? Like,
right? Because I mean, it fit the story, so I get it.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Kevin Feige knows what he's doing, and I mean, he's going to be there forever. Just like Tom Holland will probably be there as Spider-Man forever.
Well, so with basically, so in this partnership with Sony, they're letting Sony obviously pick the directors. I'm sure that at some level they're sharing what their plans are, Marvel, with Sony, because obviously it's still a Sony owned character. But I don't think that Marvel is going to have a hand in who Sony hires to direct the films, and therefore you have the wiggle room of making a potential bad movie
Right.
or a movie that's not up to the level. So, with that, do you think that Woody Harrelson is going to do a good job as Carnage? I think we've seen some early stills of they've already changed his hair
God, that was
dramatically
the
from
biggest
his end.
thing, man.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening already. I'm a little leery, but I kind of wonder if does that play in the back of your head like it does me because I
a,
can't help it.
Yeah, a little bit. A couple of things that kind of get me over the hump and think it's going to be fine is the first season of True Detective. I mean,
Oh yeah, he's great in that.
Woody
Oh, I
Harrelson.
like Woody as an actor. What I mean is, are they going to do that character justice? Are people going to think, well, we just basically have a red Venom? Are they going to separate the two symbiotes enough to show the difference between the two?
Yeah, yeah. And that's the second thing I was going to get to. One, I think the acting chops are obviously there with Woody Harrelson, but I also think now that Andy Serkis, who is the director of the movie, is in charge. And if you don't know who Andy Serkis is, he played Claw in Black Panther. He played Caesar in all the Planet of the Apes movies, and that's what I'm getting to. Is this guy is the king of motion capture, and
Oh, and let's not forget Gollum, Lord of the Rings.
exactly, that's right. Gollum,
He
Caesar.
also, I don't know how big a Lord of the Rings fan you are, but behind the scenes, he was allowed to direct the second unit when they
Oh
came back
wow.
and started doing a bunch of the Hobbit movies. So he does have director experience on a large budget movie, albeit second director tier. But that's worth something.
Yeah, it's completely worth something. But I think as much as that's worth something, I think just his physical experience and all those years of motion capture, and this
Mm-hmm.
movie being pretty much all motion capture as far as Venom and Carnage go, I think you're going to see a whole new standard bar level set by Andy Serkis directing these two guys. Ruben Fleischer, I believe it was Ruben Fleischer who directed the first Venom. Did great, but you have in this in Andy Serkis, you have someone who understands every angle of where you're coming from and what you're trying to achieve as a type of, uh, you know, fluid motion character that's being caught in CGI animation.
Right.
I don't think there's anyone better that could be directing something of this caliber of as far as Venom and Carnage going at each other.
Yep, I
Uh,
agree.
I think it'll be great. Again, my biggest problem, I thought it was the most god awful haircut I've ever seen.
It was
Uh,
bizarre.
it was very bizarre, but I guess it's semi comic accurate, and the new pictures of his hair look a little bit better, even though that red is crazy on him.
Well,
Uh,
are you what percentage are you putting that we see Tom Holland at some length cameo, maybe more?
I
What
think
percentage do you put to that?
I give it about a. I'd You know what? I'd probably go over 50%. I'd probably say there's
Oh,
at
really?
least,
Okay.
yeah, I'd probably say there's a good like 65 to 70% chance we see him in an end credit type scene. I bet he doesn't. I bet he doesn't infiltrate the full story. I bet he comes in at the end somehow. Because again, Peter Parker's on the run. For those of you who didn't see,
True,
you
but
didn't see, they were in New
not to
York,
cut you off, but so they were in New York when he gets outed, but
right?
Venom takes place in L.A.,
San Francisco.
San Francisco. So he's
But
going to have to move the country. Not Tom Holland, but Venom.
well, that's right, and he's also he's a journalist, so he has he has the professional ability to need to travel somewhere as a character.
Right. Maybe he takes a contract job to go get information on Spider-Man now that he's outed, and
But
Spider-Man's fresh off quote unquote killing Mysterio. So yeah, he wants to track this bad vigilante down.
but I don't remember because at the end of the first Venom, I don't remember where Carnage is being held. I don't know if it's in San Francisco or if he's already left San Francisco and went somewhere
See, I
else.
assumed it was like an Alcatraz type, because isn't that right off the coast of San Francisco?
Yeah, I just don't remember the scene or what it looked like, where they picked where he was at. I don't remember
Yeah.
if it said like a city or whatever. Let me see what this says real quick. It says he visits
Yeah, I don't
him.
remember either.
He visits him in a prison. I just need. I gotta watch the scene. I don't want to pick that up right now. It's gonna make my shit work too hard. But yeah, so I don't know. With Venom 2 being focused on him and Carnage, I don't know if Carnage is in California in prison. I doubt that any of the story would head over to New York real quick.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
true.
but I don't know. I'm gonna see if I can find this end credit scene and at least see the beginning of where the prison is.
Okay.
I'm gonna mute it so I don't get us kicked off anything, so I can just watch it and see real quick. So in the end credits scene, San Quentin. So that is in California.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, unless Carnage breaks out and heads to New York real fast, I see most of this story taking place in the California area, and unless Tom Holland just like bails from New York and runs to the other coast for some reason, maybe
Well,
that's
maybe he doesn't stay in New York if he's on the run. I mean, his aunt's going to be there.
yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe he runs to California. Maybe he's how Venom defeats Carnage in the movie, or at least subdues him. Is he has to help? He has to use
Yeah,
Spider
because
Man's help.
you have to imagine that Sony, at the very least, is going to say, well, we're going to use Spider-Man to the full extent that we can. He's our character.
Right.
So, for them to say, well, we'll leave Spider-Man to just the main Marvel movies, that's not happening.
Yeah. See, I couldn't see that either. It's too.
But I do think the next, full feature Spider-Man movie is going to be the Sinister Six.
You think Spider Man? You think Tom Holland's Spider Man 3 is going to involve all six?
I do, because what we're going to see with Morbius is obviously the introduction. I guess he could be technically the fifth member, and then I guess we could. Yeah, you're going to see some sort of. That's the thing, is I don't know how accurate the six that we've seen in previous movies kind of set up.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to at least go to Harry Osborn at some point.
Right.
So there's a six member right away. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the next Spider-Man movie would be about. I don't think that they would open up the multiverse before showing off some of the just regular home villains that he has.
Yeah, and Marvel might be taking that into their strategy as far as Spider-Man goes, and like not bringing the Osborns out until absolutely needed, just because the first three Spider-Mans, the first Spider-Man in general, the first two revolved around Harry Osborn and Norman Osborn, and then in Amazing Spider-Man 2, you get introduced to Harry Osborn and Norman Osborn. So we've already had two movie iterations, so Marvel might just be taking their sweet time because there's already two different versions.
Well, you know what? I just thought of. We don't necessarily have to see all of Tom Holland's version of the Sinister Six to get a full-fledged Sinister Six
That's right.
movie, if
That's
in
right.
fact we are going to put the multiverse together. Because what if the actor that played Doc Ock would like to
Comes
come
back.
back? I
Oh
mean, I
my
know how
God.
Spider-Man 2 wrapped up,
My
so maybe
brain's
not
jumping
him. But
off now. Imagine him. Imagine you got Doc Ock from the first series, who played him.
yep.
You got those two, and then you bring them in from the other universes to meet up with Vulture,
Yeah,
Scorpion.
because you'd have to imagine, in order for the multiverse to think that you either need it, if it's not like on a, cataclysmic, end level event where the worlds are just colliding, and oh, now I've seen a new Spider-Man. Maybe it's I need to go find another Spider-Man to help
Right,
because of look at this overwhelming deal.
right, and that would
But
make
if that's
sense.
the case, then why wouldn't the Avengers help? So they're going to need to flesh out a lot of stuff.
Right. Well, I mean that kind of ties into the whole idea of the multiverse being connected to Doctor Strange, because now Spider-Man knows Doctor Strange. So
Right.
if he needs help, maybe he gets some help from Doctor Strange, or again, this is all prediction and theory. That's the whole point of this podcast. But
We're
like,
just guessing.
I mean, all the ideas make sense with the facts we have presented, which is also the main idea of this podcast. We're not just pulling ideas out of our asses. We're trying to go about it logically based on everything we know and everything that's already been established. Uh,
Right.
which all of what's been established, all these theories make some sort of sense, or at least have the ability to make some sort of sense, and also have the ability to be very enjoyable. There's nothing I'd love to see more than Tom Holland and Tobey Maguire and even Andrew Garfield, three Spider-Man taking on the Sinister Six. You break that down in the movie scenes: one takes on two, one takes on two, one takes on two. Maybe one of them is too powerful. Once the other ones are all dealt with, you bring him in, and it's the final showdown of like Mysterio again or whatever against all three, and
Right.
then Mysterio is fucking with all three of them as far as like visual effects and just throwing them into a whole nother world again.
Yeah, and you kind of wonder how Mysterio is going to be able to function now without, being able to use all the drones.
Yeah,
Does he still have his group together? It'll be interesting to see how he functions in general. But the biggest is how Tom Holland will function now that Peter Parker is outed as Spider-Man.
unless Mysterio was hired to do all that by Norman Osborn, and then he gets all his tech from Oscorp.
Oh, that's true. Because if Oscorp could technically just take over for Stark Tower.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who?
that's true.
I mean, who was
It is
who?
hard to it's hard to imagine that we're never going to see, you know, uh, Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark ever again.
Or at least
It's
hear
crazy
him.
to think, right?
I would think it would be just him coming back as some sort of AI for Tom Holland to speak to would probably be the most fulfilling. That way he
Is
doesn't have
there a
to do any more.
multiverse? Is there a multiverse situation, or is there a Secret Wars situation where we get to see, Chris Evans, Captain America again,
I
or anything to that
possibly.
level?
I think there's big possibility for that, but I think they still got a little ways to go, especially now that they're starting the Eternals. Uh,
Yeah.
I feel so. This is kind of out of left field, maybe for you to hear, but in my mind, it makes sense. Again, I said earlier, I'm an improviser. I do improv, but there are different ways to play improv and to perform improv, and one of those styles is called the Herald. And the way the Herald works is there's a one, there's a scene. So you could break it down like this: scene 1A, C1B, scene 1C. And then after the end of that, you have kind of a group game mashup about those first three or whatever. Then you come back and you do 2A, 2B, 2C. And in those very first A scenes, so 2A resembles 1A either with a character, a theme, or a joke type thing. To break it down as simple as possible. If you're an improviser and you're listening to me, this is very basic shit, to at least the way to speak it. There's so much complexity to it, it goes farther than that. But idea wise, then you have like a 2A, 2B, 2C, and B and C follow the same suit as A, where it's like there's a theme or a character, something carries over. Then you have a group game, and then the third round is like kind of can go batshit crazy. But if you ever watch uh, comedy shows like if you're used to The Office or Parks and Rec, there's a little bit of that feeling of Harold where you see these things play out through the whole show, whether it's a running joke or a character doing something, like there's that idea behind it. And you could put that same idea to uh, the movies. And so if you think about the phases, like phase one, phase two, phase three of Marvel, and then going into phase four is, I believe, what they're starting now is basically like a new show. So you're getting a new 1A, 1-2, or 1A, 1B, 1C. So in my mind, a Secret Wars is a team up of a bunch of different characters type of thing in a weird way. I would see that later down the line. Thinking that way. I think they're gonna start establishing new characters. So you got Eternals, Shang-Chi. Is that what his name is?
Yeah, Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi, and then you get Thor 3, right? Or I'm sorry, Thor 4, Thor Love and Thunder.
Yeah, Thor 4, and you'll have Guardians 3,
right.
Black Panther 2, which will probably introduce them more. And I think they want Captain Marvel to lead the new iteration of the Avengers.
Yeah, I imagine ladies are going to take over for a while, which is all good with me. I don't care. Just saying. I feel like they're going to take a bigger presence, especially with how the world is now. Marvel's very keen on what's happening in the world, and it's pretty apparent they like to reflect those types of things in the right way in their movies. So I imagine female leadership is on its way, especially with Natalie Portman rumored to come back as Jane Foster and take over the Thor mantle or become like the mighty Thor female version.
Right.
So you're going to see these different iterations of characters and new characters, and they're all going to team up once again. But it's going to be like, in my mind, Secret Wars is the crazy shit, is the batshit crazy game of the next level of like a civil war. So Civil War was on Earth between two sets of heroes fighting for the right reasons. You get to Secret Wars, it's two sets of heroes and I think villains or whatever on teams fighting not on Earth but in a Coliseum type setting, almost like a gladiator type thing. So it's like that next iteration. So in my mind, we're probably about 4 years away from a Secret Wars type movie.
So you think? See, I'm thinking that Secret Wars will occur sooner, in the way that that's not going to be the next, ultimate big bad guy for the universe.
Right.
I think that Kevin Feige has said he planned out Phase 5. I'm probably sure they just have loose drafts to go to Phase 6, 7, 8, however long this ends up taking. It could be a 30-year process for all we know. And maybe they want to introduce Galactus or Kang the Conqueror 10 years from now. But because of all these shows coming out, they now don't have to wait for the theatrical releases in the movie theaters to show us Thanos 10 years after the fact.
Right.
So I think that you could put a Secret Wars, because you saw what happened, where you actually saw the the Kree that and then you saw the post-credit scene with Samuel Jackson actually hanging out. I think that you can introduce a Secret Wars sooner, with the ultimate goal being the next big bad guy.
See, I definitely think that's obviously a possibility, but in my mind, it makes sense to play Secret Wars like a Civil War type of movie where it's an event movie, but it's not the main event movie.
Right. That's why I'm thinking it could happen sooner, because I think it's just going to be the next kind of road to maybe split everyone up again.
Yeah.
While the bad guy, the main bad guy, is going to be the ultimate attraction.
Yeah, I guess if I was going to take a real hard guess at everything we've talked about and listened to, in my mind, I would say if and when Secret Wars happen, it's probably about 3/4 of the way through Phase 5.
Okay.
That's what I would guess. Am I going to be right? I don't know. Maybe not. But time-wise, and just the way I think.
We have no idea how, we're basically going to get six movies of Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Because each episode is like an hour and a half. I mean, we're going to get WandaVision's 6 movies, essentially, hour and a half, little short things. So, yeah, we have the pacing of everything we're completely guessing on, because we're using an old model at this point.
And especially now that the pandemic has kind of put, production schedules on hold for a couple of months. It's definitely changed the time frame of everything. So what's
Yep.
kind of crazy about that is when we do get content, uh, it's going to be one after the other.
Yep.
Because now that they haven't had this time to put out what they want, the moment they get the chance, it's going to be boom, boom, boom. They're not gonna, they're not gonna hold out. They want to get out stuff as fast as they can and make back some fucking money, because Disney has definitely lost billions uh, over their entire company over this whole thing. So you can bet your ass they're ready to get people in theaters is whenever is safest, obviously. But the moment that that's a go, I mean, look out. There's going to be trailer after trailer. I imagine if and when and hopefully Comic Con next year happens, it's going to be packed to the fucking max. They're going to want to
Yeah,
get.
because what did they push back? They pushed back Black Widow from May to November, which November was originally the Eternals, so
Mm-hmm.
that got pushed to March, was originally what was supposed to come was I don't think that was Thor.
Yeah.
Something got pushed to anyway. Eternals got pushed to March or April, I think. So I would that while they lost a ton of money, they still have money
Well,
because they
and
didn't do a panic sale.
let's not forget, Venom and Morbius got pushed back.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Morbius, I believe, was supposed to be out this month, or
that's right.
this
Yeah,
coming month, June or
yeah. I
July.
think it was in June.
Let's see, and it's now pushed to. Let's see what it got pushed to. It got pushed to March 19th, 2021.
Oh wow.
I believe Venom 2 was supposed to come out this October, and it is now coming out next year on June 25th. So
Crazy.
there you go. March, April, June. March, April, May, June. And to kind of put some more heft into our theory, Morbius is coming out before Venom 2, which is the Spider-Man connection. But Morbius and Venom are both part of the Sonyverse, not the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So they
Right.
are definitely connected. And if Spider-Man's coming in Morbius, you can bet that's probably going to be the bridge to Venom.
Do you think we ever see Venom in the Marvel universe?
I think
Because I
it's.
can't think of a circumstance where it would warrant that.
I
But
think.
with that said, when I said
Yeah.
earlier that a main villain from Spider-Man maybe would make the crossover, I think it would be Harry Osborn
Yes.
type.
Yeah. It's gonna be. It's gonna be need to be someone more big picture. And I. Although, with that said, I think if Venom does cross over, it would be in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, and we're completely forgetting that. Remember in the Spider-Man animated series that we watched when we were kids, Kingpin was the bad guy.
God. All right.
So
If
that
you want to
opens
get
up
into that,
Daredevil.
yeah.
Yeah, so Kingpin could be the crossover, and we haven't seen it. This is what's so crazy about everyone being pumped about the Daredevil series on and for that matter the Punisher series on Netflix.
Yep.
Is that that's a whole nother side that has so big fandom that Marvel is just putting it in the pipeline.
Well, and
There's no rush to get to it because they have so much content.
to be fair, I know they had a time limit that they couldn't play with, and because all the series didn't come out on didn't like Daredevil came out a year before Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones came out a year or whatever before Luke Cage, and then that came out before uh, Iron Fist. So there's these gaps, and and then Punisher, and they had 2 years that until they had the ability to use their characters again in their world. So
Right.
it may just be a thing of waiting out the clock until they can bring them all over at the same time. Uh,
But they've got plans. See, that's the thing is we're
yeah,
not like, oh well, is Daredevil going to get lost in the shuffle? And absolutely not.
I
And I would you prefer to have the actor that plays Punisher
yes,
stay over or the Daredevil actor?
I in my mind, in a perfect Marvel world, they wait out the clock. Once that clock is gone off, or once the alarm has gone off, you bring all the Netflix people over into Disney Plus.
So
uh,
you keep all of
I
wait,
think
when you mean just as an avenue to watch,
you
or
bring
do
it
you
as an
mean to
avenue to
connect
watch,
it to
but
the
then
universe?
a way to rebuild or to build on top of. I
So you want them within the universe. You want it to all be part of the universe.
I think it should be. I think they earned their right. I think all the shows were good in their own way. Even the people that had a problem with Iron Fist, have been
Yeah.
redeemed. Have been redeemed in a way. I think with Shang Chi because Shang Chi went, all Asian specific actors, cast crew type thing. I don't know about the crew, but like they're taking the right way culturally to make that a correct feeling film. Uh, so I think you bring over all the Netflix people, at least in my mind, you would, because I think Vincent D. or I don't know how to say his name correctly, Vincent D'Orfino, who
Yeah.
who played Kingpin, was perfect. Uh, God,
Well, I have heard some rumors that the way they could introduce Iron Fist is through the Shang-Chi movie because the Shang-Chi movie is supposed to have a Mortal Kombat, the first Mortal Kombat movie style tournament.
okay,
And it's going to be the first time they introduce apparently some B and C level mutants
okay,
and 10 rings, which I was unaware of how powerful all the rings were, but it's insane. That's a way to introduce these top-notch fighters from around the world, and so it would make sense that Iron Fist would be part of that.
and I again, Kevin Feige is not one to miss opportunities, and I'm sure he is very well aware of how much people love the series, especially Daredevil and especially the Punisher. If you haven't watched the Punisher, the second season is okay. The first season is glorious. I think John Bernthal is a bad motherfucker. I think he does Frank Castle all the justice in the world. Uh,
Uh,
with with that said, if they wanted him to play Wolverine, I've seen some fan art that would totally justify that for me. He'd be a badass Wolverine too. Um, but again,
yeah, see,
that's
that's the whole thing. We're guessing the entire Spider Verse theory is so vast, and
mm-hmm.
what is Marvel going to do, and how are they going to put it all together? But that's, I mean, we'll introduce this maybe in a later episode. But you have all the X Men. They
Yeah.
they're going to have to redo all that. It's just crazy amount of content.
You
And
know,
yeah, if he were to be cast as Wolverine, that would be insane.
dude, oh man, John Bernthal, you are a bad
But
motherfucker.
Feige is on record saying that I don't think he's going to introduce mutants in Phase 5. Is that what he said?
I don't remember. I
I
would
think he
be.
said he didn't have. They already had Phase 5 locked up, or Phase 4 locked up.
Yeah, well, they had Phase Two locked up, and then they decided to bring Spider-Man in. So,
That's true. Yeah.
I mean,
Nothing's off the table.
exactly, nothing's
Rumors
off the
off the
table.
table.
Even when they think it is, it isn't.
Yeah.
And and we'll get into this in future episodes. Just so you guys know, episodes coming up, we're gonna focus on some ideas on casting as far as bringing over Fox properties and things like that. But today we did try to focus on Spider-Man and into the Sonyverse and what the hell is going on because there's so much to take in and try and understand, and it can get very confusing, and it probably still is confusing. Uh, but it sure is fun to think about. There's tons of possibilities. Um, the comic book movie industry has changed. We talked about it in the first episode with the Snyder Cut being released due to a fan movement, a fucking movement.
Yeah.
Things can happen and things can be done. I don't think a lot needs to be done in the Spider-Man case. Everyone's pretty happy and pretty excited to see what's coming. Uh, but the possibilities are there. I think there'll probably be a bigger movement. I don't even think they'll need a movement for Marvel because Kevin Feige is so smart and he knows
Oh
what
yeah,
you know what I
they'll
mean. Like,
just tweet, I want to see such and such, but there won't be hashtags of, I think maybe you'll start seeing your first pushback on casting, if like John Krasinski and his wife
aren't
Emily don't end up being
Mr. and
Fantastic
Mrs.
Four.
Fantastic? Yeah.
I
Uh,
mean, but that's just because the internet has wanted it for so long. It's not that we're like, oh, what a terrible cast if it doesn't happen.
and
Not like it is for other stuff.
if they cast somebody else, they're probably going to be great.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, no one has let us down.
yeah.
I mean,
Well, there was the Hulk, but that's a whole nother thing.
that's true. And I think Feige has a producer credit
Yeah.
on the Eric Bana Hulk. I
Yeah.
know for sure he does on the Edward Norton.
Yeah, and to just to put it out there, I was a huge Edward Norton fan. I thought he did a great job. I was sorry to see him go. Mark Ruffalo is great. But Ed
Do you
Norton,
think that? Would you rather Norton?
I don't know if I would rather, but I definitely wouldn't mind. Uh,
Yeah, because I think Ruffalo is one of those characters where I think maybe he plays the Bruce Banner character really well.
right, exactly.
But again, I mean, with the motion capture, you are getting the Hulk, so I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
mean, he was good as the Hulk in Ragnarok, so I don't know. Maybe we're splitting hairs, but
well, they definitely
yeah,
put that Marvel flair on him as Professor Hulk in Endgame. I mean,
right,
that
right.
was maximum Marvel character
And that was
development.
Maximum Ruffalo. I mean,
Yeah,
that was him.
yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, it was good.
So that worked, and I'm fine with it. But again, I'm a huge Edward Norton fan. He's an actor's actor. He's fucking good at acting, and
Yep.
I thought he took on that idea of being this person who had to keep his rage under control, uh, awesomely. I think the whole doing the thing that really sold it for me was him learning those breathing techniques from I believe it was Royce Gracie, or maybe I got the wrong Gracie, but it was like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu
Oh yeah, I
master
read
in the
that. Yeah.
Gracie family that does all those breathing techniques, and was
Well,
teaching him. And
what do you say to the argument that Marvel doesn't necessarily need an actor's actor to make a role successful, and therefore maybe that's why they aren't hiring the actors? You have Anthony Hopkins, who I would consider an actor, playing Odin. But beyond that, who's like just a very good talented actor that you'd say, oh, I'm glad Marvel got that person, because Robert Downey was on his way out before he got the role, or he down in the dumps, I guess. No one looked at Chris Evans as like this huge dramatical actor, and now he's done some roles that are pretty good. But do you see what I'm getting at?
yeah, I do, and I will say I think they nailed it on the head getting Brie Larson uh, as
You like
Captain
her?
Marvel. Oh yeah, I watched Room and I was like, oh yeah, this girl deserves a fucking Oscar.
Yeah,
She
I
was
like
awesome in
Michael
that
B.
movie.
Jordan too. He's a
Yes.
pretty good actor.
I would imagine he's got to come back in some sort of way. I think he's too big of a star to just kind of leave out in the cold like that as a one-time villain.
You think how do you think they'll bring Killmonger back?
I don't know, but the multiverse of madness allows anything. So
Man, that would be crazy. You have
I
a
don't
good Killmonger in a different universe.
I don't know. I don't know. I really
That'll be
don't.
the thing too when they introduce the multiverse. Are you getting evil versions of some of your stars and vice
Ooh,
versa? Maybe,
are we
maybe you
gonna
could
see a
set up an
black
entire
suit Tom
movie.
Holland dancing?
Yeah, right.
God, please
Maybe you've
no.
got an entire universe where you've got good villains. That'd be
That would be.
wild.
Could you imagine Thanos being like the Thor of another universe
Yeah, like he's leading the charge to stop the evil Iron
to
Man.
save Earth, whatever Earth
Right.
he's on or whatever? Yeah.
Pretty wild.
Again, worlds and worlds of possibilities. I don't want to get too off topic because we were talking about the Spider-Man world, but
Right.
yeah. I mean, again, this just kind of shows what we as hosts kind of think about a lot of the time, and uh, you know, th- it's fun to think about. It's fun to see it come to fruition when it does too.
Yeah, and I'd like to see, while I mentioned earlier, we sort of have that iffy feeling potentially of Sony making a negative or a bad movie, but it's because we're giving Marvel credit on potentially not making a terrible movie, even if you
Right.
don't like, Thor 2 or Ant-Man 2 or
Yeah.
Ant-Man 1 for that matter. But I think that's where maybe the tide will change a little bit for me. Is once Marvel now at this point they've got they did an incredible job on the first three phases, and I think what they need from the Sonyverse is a very suitable partner to put very good movies together so that they can now do a rebuild. Because people I mean, everyone's wondering, where do we go after Black Widow? What
Right.
happens?
Right. What's the plan?
So Sony's role in this, creating a Spider Verse, is as important as what Marvel's doing because it's connected.
Yeah, 100%. And we talked about Marvel not making any missteps. I would have to say there is one, uh, and
Which one?
I would say not trying to hang on to Edgar Wright for Ant Man.
Yeah, see, that's the
God.
one. That's the one movie where I did not go see Ant-Man 2 in the theaters,
Hmm.
and it has been the only Marvel movie I didn't see. And also, I've only watched Ant-Man once.
Yeah. I,
The,
I
the first Ant-Man.
I think I've seen the first one twice. Don't mind it. I love Paul Rudd forever, but
Yeah, Paul Rudd is awesome.
Edgar Wright is such
Yeah.
a fantastic like filmmaker and thinker. I mean, all of, all the stuff he did with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, as far as like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz,
Oh, oh
so good and
yeah, Shaun of the Dead is awesome.
so unpredictable in a lot of ways.
Yep.
Watching Hot Fuzz and seeing that piece of the top of think of a church fall on a dude's head. Uh,
Oh yeah.
God
Spiked
damn,
him in
that
the
was
top of the head.
funny as fuck. But I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
expect it at all.
And you don't expect the ending of that
No,
entire movie.
no.
So yeah, it's not that he's. We're not saying he's a bad director at all. It's just I don't think the Ant-Man character is that just all that appealing. But
Edgar Wright made Timothy Dalton a villain in a movie where Simon Pegg was the hero. And it was so crazy and
he
funny
made
and
Double O
weird.
Seven
Yeah,
a villain. Yeah.
listen, Timothy Dalton's fucking perfect. And
Oh yeah.
God, I don't even want to get into that. That's a whole nother conversation. But I do think that one of the biggest missteps Marvel made, which they could always correct and bring him back at some point for something else. I think you're missing out on a huge opportunity letting Edgar Wright go. But who am I to talk? You guys have had the most successful run of comic book movies. You're owned by Disney. I have no room to talk. But as a person who loves filmmakers and someone like Edgar Wright, who's so creative, again, Baby Driver, fucking great. Probably Kevin Spacey's last reasonable role. Uh,
Yep.
like, he's so fucking good, man. And he can play with music just like James Gunn can with Guardians of the Galaxy. Like
Yep.
he can throw those songs in there to put you in the right
I'm
mood
I'm
for
pretty
what you're about to
sure.
see.
Did he? I don't think he directed Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Maybe he wrote. The
I
script was attached to it at some point, and I like that movie a whole bunch.
Yeah,
So
Scott Pilgrim, who directed it? Nope, he did direct it, and he wrote it.
yeah.
He did both.
Oh, he did both.
Yeah,
Okay, there you go.
sorry, I probably should have known that. As much love as I gave Edgar Wright, but I just I'm more into like Baby Driver and especially Shaun of the Dead. That's where I'm at. Scott Pilgrim, I love. It's a good movie. I just doesn't come to my mind thinking about Edgar Wright, but it should, and it does now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's probably Marvel's biggest missed opportunity in my mind.
So who's a director that you know beyond? Let's say that Venom 2 has some success. Would you like him to direct another Sony feature, or do you like the Marvel mentality of kind of spreading everything out?
Are you talking about Andy Serkis?
Yeah, circus.
I'm down for him at whatever they want to do. I think Andy
Is
Serkis
there a
is.
director out there that you were like, man, I hope they get a chance to direct something?
It's not necessarily. I hope. I don't know who they would mesh with better as far as DC Marvel. I think the one that comes straight to my mind is Danny Boyle. God, he's crazy good, and I see him probably doing some sort of darker movie, probably in the DC world more than I see him doing a Marvel movie.
Okay.
Um, in fact, if they ever wanted him to do Swamp Thing, I think that'd be crazy as shit.
Yeah, didn't he do the 28
He
Days
did 28 Days
later?
Later. He didn't do the sequel, but I will say I don't remember who did 28 Weeks Later. They did a really good job of continuing that story and the tone. Just a little side compliment. I'll try to look him up here in a second. But yeah, Danny Boyle did that. He did this movie called Sunshine with Chris Evans. That's about the sun basically dying. Uh, and this crew has to go basically shoot a nuke into the sun to restart the sun as a new star. And basically, it's basically a suicide mission. It's a great movie though. And but yeah, I think
Well, that's
Danny.
been the best thing that DC did was getting James Wan to come on and make, a more horror-esque Aquaman,
Yeah,
uh, kind of a little bit darker. I like that was smart to bring on a horror type director. So if they want to bring Danny Boyle on, I know he's done some other things. Didn't he do Franco's where he lost his arm?
oh, the
Pretty sure he directed that.
The
127 hours.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
So
remember
he
if he
does
did.
other stuff too, but
Yeah.
uh, DC was smart when they brought James Wan to do that. So I would like Marvel to bring on something like that. And
Well,
I think
and they
wasn't there
did
a
with
horror
Sam
director
Raimi.
attached to Doctor Strange before the second Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness? Didn't they bring in who was the first person attached?
I don't remember it may have been Scott Derrickson, the director
Yeah,
of the first one. And then he took off for whatever reason.
yeah,
Um,
Scott Derrickson.
yeah. But yeah, I think Marvel made the right move in getting Sam Raimi to do a horror movie for Marvel.
100%.
Yeah.
Now it's
Uh,
allowed us to pontificate on this episode about Spider-Man.
and I do just to give an update. The director of 28 Weeks Later was Juan Carlos Fresnadillo. Great job, guy. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'd love to see Christopher Nolan come back and do something. I don't know what the fuck he would do. I'm probably dead sure he's probably jaded on superhero movies right now.
Well, yeah, I think his last he was a producer on Man of Steel.
But I believe he's still producing in that world. I'm pretty sure he's probably got a deal with Warner Brothers.
Okay. Which side note is Tenet a prequel or sequel to Inception?
So I read something about that. John David Washington was interviewed and asked that question and said that it's not necessarily a sequel, but they might be in the same family and meet up on holidays at like Thanksgiving or something. But
Nice.
that's how he described it.
Okay.
But yeah. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of potential, a lot of possibilities in the world. Yeah, he was a producer on BVS. There's a lot of potential in the world of Spider-Man. I'm excited to see it. I believe Chris is too.
Yes.
But yeah, the whole side universe is pretty confusing. I hope we brought some clarity to it. If we didn't, we did our best. It's a lot to take in, especially if you're not a big comic book person or comic book movie person. But I imagine if you're listening, you are. But yeah, we're at about an hour and 13 right now. I believe that's probably it for this episode. Chris, you got any final words?
No. I just would like everyone to know that facts aren't brave, but theories are extremely brave.
That's right.
So that's why you come here. You don't come for the facts necessarily. Unless we get them right, then they are facts.
That's right.
And I'll let you know about it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. Nothing is off the table, even when they say it is. Now more than ever. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back soon with episode 3. We're probably going to do it next week. It's going to be a good one. Thank you for joining in, or thank you for listening if you're listening to this at a later time. We'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.